God is going to give free will to people, who am I to then try to impose on what God has given humanity? Because that's the beautiful thing, is that God can. The beautiful thing is that God can give us free will and then allow for us to either obey him, follow him, or say, actually, this thing isn't for me. I don't want to be with God. I don't think he's real, or I think he's too problematic, or I don't think he laid everything out enough. Like, I think that's the beautiful thing, because you don't have that concept of free will virtually in any other religion.
So I want to go back to, because I was trying to. One of the things you said earlier is that it basically wasn't logically connecting, or that I was going all over the place or something. But
no, I was saying I don't understand how the concept and the theology of original sin would then say that's why my belief in traditional marriages is problematic.
Because they're. Okay.
I was just saying
that's
that
how we got there. That's how we got
it.
there, point by point, logically, right? We started with. Now I'm trying to think of what we even started with. We started with. We started with like the gay marriage thing, right? Mm-hmm. And I basically asked you, why is it wrong? And you said,
yes,
it's something that Jesus said. And I said, and I'm simplifying here, but I said, mm-hmm. Why should we basically value what Jesus said? And then you said, we should value what Jesus said because he died on the cross and resurrected 3 days later. Right? Are you with me so far?
Yeah, I'm with you.
And you said the reason he did that, I'm not sure why you're laughing, but the reason he did that was that he needed to do that because of the idea of original sin. Right?
Yes.
So all of that logically followed. So then we got into the conversation of original sin.
Yes.
So I'm not sure what.
But no. The jump off was to then tie it back in to say the fact that I don't have every single theological point down to exactly why everything had to happen means that I have a problematic theology and that I am against homosexuality for that reason. That's the jump that I wasn't following.
Sure. I guess I'm confused on why that's a jump, because the last thing that we were talking about was why what you just said now is not what I said.
Yes.
I didn't say you have to know every single detail. What I said is that why God had to send someone to suffer is a major detail. Because you're hanging your hat on essentially the reason you think gay marriage is wrong. When you logically take it down the line, you get to a point where you say, because of original sin, we trust Jesus because he died. And so my question is, to question the entire framework, my question is, that's not even necessary. Because if it doesn't make sense that Jesus had to die, because of the connections we made earlier, your argument for gay marriage would fall apart.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think I misinterpreted this, because what I'm saying is it's very clear in Scripture that God chose for sacrifices to be the way that people were atoned and made righteous and able to be in right relationship with God. It is very clear from Old Testament that that's why he chose that.
I don't disagree. I'm asking why that's necessary.
That's what I'm saying.
And that's what bothers me, is you don't know, yet you're willing to believe in the system. And what I'm saying is, when there's such a major detail like that you don't, when it comes to sacrificing and killing and suffering like that brutally, if you don't know why it happened, probably it's not a good system.
But I know why it happened.
You don't know why it's necessary. Let me put it that way. There was the
disconnect. I don't know why God chose to demand sacrifices. I don't.
Sure. And so what I'm saying is, if there is a system that cannot explain to me why brutal sacrifice is necessary, probably it's a system I shouldn't believe in. Because you're going to endorse brutal sacrifice for something that you don't fully understand.
But it's yeah, it's animals.
But
I
it's
don't the
not.
animals
Jesus suffered.
and yes, and he
He's
was
a
the one
person.
who suffered. Yes, but he was the one who came in place of all of those things.
Why did that even have to happen? See, this is what I'm saying. Is like
So okay, so you have a problem with the fact that God didn't choose another way than to send Jesus. That's where the
Okay,
problem is.
okay, let me just back up real quick. I have a problem with the whole fucking thing because none of it makes
Yeah,
any
yeah.
sense. That like somebody disconnected from God and therefore there has to be this really convoluted story about like coming back to connection. He literally just could have gone to like Cain and Abel or 2 generations and been like, yeah, we're chill. Like your grandparents, whatever they did, it's fine. It's all good. No worries. Don't worry about it. So that's the
Yeah.
that's the issue for me. That's the and we can just maybe a couple more things on this, but I really want to go back to the gay marriage thing because
For sure. Yeah.
I'm passionate about that, and there's no again
Yes.
the things you were even saying about like having basically multiple partners. It's still
Yes.
yeah that's of course going to be a risk, but I don't think that's a risk that's worth saying the entire behavior of homosexuals is inappropriate or wrong or sinful or anything.
Yes, but again, it's the consistency between homosexual relationships or homosexual sexual activity and heterosexual sex outside of the confines of marriage.
They come with
Both of
risks,
those
but does
things
that
are-
mean it's
but
wrong?
both of
That's
but
the question.
Both of those things are consistent.
They are
So that's what
consistent.
I'm
I
saying.
agree. But what I'm saying is, are
Yes.
they wrong? That's the key thing here. It's not, are there risks? Yes, there are
if
risks.
you have multiple sexual partners, it's wrong.
Why is it morally wrong? This is what we should get to. Why is it morally wrong to have sex with someone of your own sex and or to have multiple sexual
Yes.
partners? Can you give me a practical reason?
Yes,
What?
I can give you a practical reason.
Okay.
Because when you are introducing that level of intimacy without a commitment that is secure, it leaves a level of vulnerability that was not designed for us to carry with multiple people.
I think that's true in some cases, but not in all cases, and that still wouldn't make it morally wrong. That might make it might not make it preferable. That might make it a good idea or a bad idea, but that doesn't make it wrong. And when you talk about wrong or right, the thing with homosexual
where does it end, though?
just real quick. The thing with homosexual activity is it's going to come with risks, of course. There might even
Yes.
if there isn't increased STD risk, but the same is
Yes.
going to be with heterosexual activity.
Yes.
Even in a married couple, you're risking something like the perfect marital Christian situation. Unprotected sex with someone you love. Pregnancy is a huge risk. There's all
Yes.
kinds of medical risk with pregnancy.
Yes.
There's no not taking a risk.
Are you equating pregnancies with STDs?
I'm saying that there are risks either way. There are STD risk in straight marriages.
Absolutely. Not if you have one partner and you wait until marriage.
Sure, I guess in that situation,
think-
yes, but you're still
So
still going
again,
to
I
take
mean, I think I think that in and of itself is an indication that God's design is the best practice in this thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
No,
don't.
I mean, I hear you. I really do understand what you're saying. I think we just have a difference in morality.
I don't think it's a difference in morality, man. I really don't. I just don't. I don't think that.
So what
I
do you think it's a difference in?
I think you're just delusional, quite frankly, on this, because I think that the harm that would be caused from homosexual relationships, the degree that you think it is, does not outweigh the people having to repress their natural urges.
But they don't have to repress their urges if they don't want to subscribe to it. This is why I started with what I wish would have communicated earlier, is that if you don't subscribe to a Christian doctrine, you don't have to repress anything.
Yeah, but what I'm saying, but okay, fine. Then I'll just question you directly. Why would you want to be a part of a system where like, okay, let's pretend the whole world was Christian, Josh. Everybody followed
Yes.
what you followed. Every single
Yes.
person. That
Yes.
world, without a doubt, would cause so much harm to homosexual people. They would be suppressing their homosexual urges all the time, and the mental health problems caused by that would way outweigh any kind of concerns about STDs or anything like that. And I think honestly, I don't like to make statements like this very often, but I think if that's a statement that if you don't agree with, I think you are lost in your dogma.
I want to think about it.
Okay.
And I think, and this goes into a little bit of the political spectrum of things. What you just described is what a lot of like dominion theology, which is basically that if you just make the world Christian, everything's great. Christian nationalism, especially here in America, I think that those are some of the goals of that. I don't subscribe to any of that. Because I think, again, if you make the entire earth and world, if you make everybody forced to believe in this thing.
I didn't say forced.
That,
I didn't say forced. I just said imagine that it existed that way.
that everybody was Christian?
Yeah.
Or
It
everybody
has nothing to
else
do
who
with
was Christian?
force. Let's just say it happened. Let's say
But
you convinced everyone.
Okay, here's where I'm at with it. And if you think that it's lost in dogma, that's fine. I'm cool with that. There are a lot of things in my personal life that I die to, that my flesh, this is super churchy and Christianese stuff, but like Jesus basically says that you have to pick up your cross and follow him daily. And what does that mean? It means that you have to crucify your flesh, and not just your physical body and sexual immorality and sin and all this stuff, but actually just like the way that you interact and engage with other people are natural, again, because of original sin in Genesis 3 and this concept that we're still carrying that. And so we need to accept the saving grace and redemption of Jesus. There's always going to be something that you are going to have to die to.
Not
And
sure what you mean by that.
Okay, again, that's why I'm glad to stop there, because I can sometimes use very Christian language and I don't want to do that. There are certain things that in my natural sense I want to do. Or and this could be anything as small as like language. Mm-hmm. It could be as minuscule as lying. You know what I mean? Like there are certain things in my natural sense that I want to do. I repress those, and I eventually learn how to live without those, so it's not even repression anymore. I think you know this from just building any sort of discipline in anything. The first couple times or the first phase of that is going to be really difficult. I don't want to do this. I think this is stupid. This is against what I'm naturally wanting to do. And then eventually, as that discipline grows, it becomes something that just becomes a part of your life, and you don't have to repress it as much as you did at the beginning.
This is such a bad comparison, dude. You're comparing like a gym habit basically to like.
Okay.
It's a terrible comparison.
That's crazy.
This is like,
you really think that a Christian discipline is different than any other physical discipline? A spiritual discipline would be different than any other. Absolutely
Let's
not.
stop. Let's just make sure we're on the same page. When we're talking about the thing to be disciplined about, I'm assuming you're saying that people can, if they were homosexual, after a while of suppressing those urges and acting otherwise, they would go away or become manageable? Is that what you're saying?
I'm not saying it's manageable. I'm saying you become a brand new person. Romans 12:2 talks about the renewing of your mind, that we are to be transformed by the renewing of our mind.
I think you're completely wrong. I think what you're trying to do to homosexuals.
That's what I'm saying. But
it's not. But hang on. It's not what you're basically saying. What you're comparing it to, like building like a new gym habit. What I'm saying is to tell someone
It's
that they
very
should
similar.
change their habit, their homosexual urges. That's like telling someone they should not eat. That's how serious. That's how severe it is. Think about it. Think about it in your life, dude. Think about like you're straight. Do you think if you were around a church or some kind of teaching long enough that said homosexual behavior was better, do you think that you would be? Do you think it would be possible for you to be renewed?
Yes, I've seen it happen, dude.
Okay. Those people were never gay, dude. They were never gay or they're bisexual.
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about drug addictions. I'm talking about people with sex addictions. I'm talking about like there has
Those aren't
been
the same
I've
thing,
seen
dude.
transformation in the lives of people.
I agree. I am with people like people in like IOP groups, and I understand in the mental health field that those kind of things exist. People transform like that. A drug addiction, a dependency on alcohol, none of those compare to your sexual urges. That it's not even in the same planet.
Really?
It's not even this, dude. It's not even the same. This is like comparing like I can't even make a comparison. They're so unalike. It's unfathomable.
Yeah.
And I think I feel like if you had never been introduced to religion, you would agree with me on that. I think you are totally captured by the dogma on this.
Wow, man.
I just think you are because I don't think reasonable people think these things.
No, I get you, but like I'm trying to understand how because like you hear fundamentalist talk.
Yeah.
You hear the way the extremes of my faith, my tradition talk.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't talk like that. And I feel like the reaction is the same as them because I feel like you think that fundamentally it's the same and it's really not. And so like I think it's crazy to think that like I'm so unreasonable in these things simply because like you know what I mean? Like I think it's crazy to think that man, you're so unreasonable in this because the conclusion that you draw from simply because you draw from something like faith, you know what I mean? Which again, we can talk about like the way that scripture has remained throughout thousands of years. We could talk about archaeological digs and finds and things that reinforce scripture. We could talk about all of those things. Like that's what I have used to strengthen my belief. Those are the things that strengthen my faith. And then there is I know you're against all the supernatural stuff, but there are supernatural elements that have also increased my faith. And it's this thing of faith and logic that come together in this really awesome way. And so I don't know, it's just really, it's interesting to hear that like you think I'm just so lost in dogma when in reality I'm trying my best to marry the two. And because we have the disagreement about it, I don't know. It's very interesting to me because I don't think that way about you or your beliefs.
Okay.
And I'm also not in a spot where I'm like upset that you feel that way because I know a lot of people feel that way. But I think that's the thing that I wish people understood more about Christians is we're not just some crazy cult that's like following some dude that didn't exist and like we're just believing things willy-nilly because we think we heard something when the leaves flew around.
Sure, I don't think that at all, dude. I grew up in a Catholic church. Like I understand that. I understand.
For sure. Well, Catholicism is different
than
than Pentecostalism as well. But
it is. But I'm saying like I understand what you're saying. The like the like what you're. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but just to summarize, you're saying that like often fundamentalist Christians or Christian nationalists will come across with this hyper strong like this is what we believe. Everything's like we're going to take over, yada 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 yada.
Yeah.
But you approach it from more of a harmonious, sort of calmer perspective, where you're trying to bring people in, be more progressive, be more welcoming, and you're trying to marry logic and faith. right? That's and then so when I talk with the severity or with the poignancy I do to critique you, it takes you
For sure.
aback. Is that, do I have that summary right?
I think so. I mean, like, I don't think that, I don't think that the logic that I'm following with scripture, and maybe it's just the disconnect because we just don't have similar enough like backgrounds to be able to draw from on this thought. I mean, we do, but I think like I don't act, I don't preach, I don't talk, I don't lead in a way that's the response that comes back. Like, I'm not just willy-nilly believing things simply because somebody else told me to do. And I don't think that
yeah,
me
so
being in a I also don't think that me being in a Christian backing. I mean, like, my brother's not a Christian. He was in the same churches and in the same places that I was.
sure.
And so at some point I had to make a decision for myself on this stuff, and I did look around. I looked at what it was like to not follow God. I looked at what it was like to look at other gods. I looked at what it was like to look at other traditions. And there's honestly things that I respect in other faith
Sure.
traditions.
Yeah, but I mean, you were preaching since you were like 4 years old, weren't you?
I mean, yeah, but again, there's an innocence in that of like, was I really preaching like really gripping hard theological messages? No, I was repeating what I heard.
Well, I just
You
think
know
that
what I
that
mean?
got I bring that up because I think it got positively reinforced. That's why I'm saying. So, like, you're talking about this stuff of like, you looked at other communities and you found like
Yeah.
that the God you believe in now is the best one. But likely, I think one big contributor to that is you grew up in a neighborhood that was already Christian, around a bunch of Christian people, and as you preached more Christianity, they said, "Wow, look at
Yeah.
Josh."
That's actually super assumptive.
Well, that's
It's been a very, very difficult journey to be studied as a pastor, to be hired as a pastor, to move to the area that I moved to,
Yeah,
to
I'm not-
continue to pastor in this time. Like, all of those things is super assumptive.
Yeah, I'm not saying it hasn't been difficult, man, at all. I'm not even saying you haven't worked your ass off. All I'm saying is, like, I think that you should take into account that,
Yes.
like, as a child, you were likely around
Yes.
these neighborhoods that were like God believing, and so that I
But
could
how does
be
somebody
wrong,
how
but
does
at an
yeah, but
early
how does a
age. Go ahead.
yeah. But how does a peer like me grow up in the same how does somebody grow up in the same settings like that? And I already kind of know where this could go, but like, how does that happen where, my youth group, at one point when I was in like middle school, high school, youth group was probably 60, 70 kids. I'm really the only one, to my knowledge, that's in full-time ministry,
Yep.
which I know is not a qualifier for anything, but I think there's probably, if I had to count, maybe 10 of my friends that are still following Jesus
Sure.
out of that group.
Yeah.
And so I think in the same way that people get to make their own decisions, again, this goes back to the thing of free will. Like, people get to walk away from the faith because there hasn't been enough that's convinced to them. I think as well, for me, there has been enough stuff that has convinced me to follow this thing out.